and I just called it.
Yeah,
I've just
clicked live on Facebook.
Brian.
Yep.
Okay.
Carol's on the phone. She's saying she needs to be unmuted.
Yep. Easy.
And there's a photo of Alan up. Do you want to press the video button and then?
Well, maybe to make Brian a more co-host.
Yeah, I'll set everyone up as co-hosts. Sorry.
And they can unmute and mute as they want.
Here.
Yeah, you're live. It's working. But I don't know if
so Moishi, we're live. I'm gonna spotlight you, Moishi.
Is it live under Dominion also?
Are you going? Are you?
Moishi, you're gonna
get in.
Gonna be spotlight, Moish.
Doesn't matter. Hi, Carol.
All right. I'm
Carol.
Brian.
Hi. So I'm unmuted now, and everyone can see me.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Carol, if you want, you could change your name from Alan very easily to Carol on your screen.
All right. Okay. How do I do that? Because I'm actually on Alan's device.
Yeah, just right-click on it, and you could change your name very easily.
And Brian, Peter's in the waiting room. You let him in?
Who, sorry?
Brian? Peter Edwards is waiting.
Yep. One sec.
Carol, if you look at the top right of your screen of yourself, there's 3 dots. You see 3 dots? Click on that 3 dots and it says rename yourself. Left click on it.
There's 2 Peters there, Yehuda.
It's actually not saying that. It's actually saying,
yes.
Hang on now. It's actually not saying that. It actually says, there's no option to rename myself. It says minimize meeting, virtual background, meeting settings, chat, or record to the cloud.
Can you click on the 3 dots?
Was that the correct feeder?
Yeah, I've done that.
Are you Brian is it a co-host?
Sorry.
Have you made Carol a co-host?
Yes.
That's all right. You can just tell them to ignore the name at the bottom of the screen.
Everyone knows who you are, anyways.
I was going to say, everyone knows who you are. I'm definitely not Alan. I'm definitely not Alan. I will announce to everybody I'm not Alan. That I'm using his device.
Brian, Sam, and Peter are both still on mute, and they're pretty big guys.
Everyone's a co-host here, but I can manually unmute. Peter, Sam, welcome.
And Brian, it's not live on Dominion Facebook, right?
Oh, no.
Well, I can just share it.
Yeah,
I'll make a watch party.
Good idea.
No, don't make a watch party. I'll just share it, Dina.
Okay, fine. No problem.
Does everyone know each other before we start?
We're now live on Facebook, by the way, guys. Everybody was.
I am Leah.
This is live already.
We have 13 viewers on Facebook.
Hello. There's 71 in the waiting room.
81.
Let's wait till we get to 1,000.
I like that boy, little boy. What's his name?
What's your name?
Hi. Are you helping your dad? Are you the tech guy? You must be the tech guy.
He's a Zoom. He goes to school on Zoom. He can go do Zoom in his sleep.
Yeah, I bet.
Peter, I like the beard.
Huh? Boy. I thought I was a young man till the speed came out.
Hi.
I've done the best I can to hide my hair that's grown way too long at the back.
Is anybody nervous? Anyone want a bit of a prep talk before we get in there?
Are you kidding? But can you tell me, is anybody who's introducing the speakers? It's not.
Maishala Khan.
No. Okay.
Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, should we go let everybody into the event?
Yes.
Ready? All right. Admitting all.
Yeah.
All right. Brian, you tell me when everyone's in and we'll start.
Admit all. I'm going to take off the restriction on the waiting room and deactivate it. And now we're good to roll. Good to go, Mosh.
We're good to go. Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to another extraordinary YJP workshop. It's we've pivoted. We've gone from face to face to virtual, and I think everybody feels like this is the new norm. This is now what we call a community. This is now what we call a gathering, and it's really, really special to be here with all of you. And thank you so much for joining us. I want to begin by thanking our tremendous and wonderful team. We've got Zalman sitting over there. You'll get to see him a bit later. You've got Yehuda. You've got Brian Berg, who's behind the scene doing so much work. Thank you so much. And arguably to the most important member of our team, to my dear wife, Dina, who actually tonight we celebrate 21 years of our wedding anniversary. So nice one for Dina.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
Yes, 100%. And I bless us that we should have another, not just 21 years, but another, please go 100 years together and beyond, or who knows, many, many years together. Now, I just want to begin by saying that, we're in the month of Elul, which is, nobody knows, we're just before the corner of the Jewish New Year. It's about to come in a few weeks, and nobody knows what will be. We don't even know what's going to be tomorrow, let alone what's going to be in a few weeks. But one thing I do want to say, the month of Elul in Hebrew stands for Ani Ledodi V'Dodi Li, which means I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. And I say to all of you, if there's one calling of dominion, of YJP, if there's one calling of this beautiful gathering that we all have here, is that we're here for one another. In the most challenging of times, when we're physically separated, remember that our mission, our purpose, our calling of tonight is to bring the community together. And when I look tonight, well over 100 of us are united over here. It's about building that community. It's about building that unity, that none of us are alone. And although we're each sitting in our own respective home, remember we are one people. And I just want to say to all of you, if there's anything we could do for you, reach out for a chat, for a meal, for any help, anything that we could do through these challenging times. That's what YGP is here for. That's what we're here to bring you guys together, to keep us engaged, to keep us involved, to keep us inspired, to keep us motivated and changing this world for the better. So welcome all. Now we've got an extraordinary panel, group over here who have shared and been willing to come tonight. Some of them have presented before, some are new faces. I'll start with Peter. Peter is a dear old friend of YJP, has presented before, and that's the biggest compliment, that we've had you back, Peter. And Peter's hosted some events in his office, and it's really, really wonderful to have Peter back on board. And thank you so much for your friendship and for your partnership on YJP. It's really, really special. LEAH BALTER is no stranger to us. I've worked with LEAH she was on an advisory committee to us, and thank you so much for all your work that you've done to the community and continue to do. And it's really, really a pleasure and an honor to have you. Thank you for joining us. To Sam TARASCIO. Now, Sam TARASCIO I would say is also no stranger to YJP, because we've had Sam TARASCIO present for YJP, just senior, but not the junior one. But tonight we have Sam TARASCIO Jr., who is a true friend of our organization. And I want to, I met Sam at a Friday night dinner probably a year ago now. And I don't think he knew what he was getting himself into. But I want to thank Sarah Meltzer, who introduced us at the dinner. But it's been really, really wonderful to have the TARASCIO family as part of the YJP family. And I saw your dad's on before, and I should, recognize him and welcome your dad also. So to Sam and Sam, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And of course, to our latest recruit, our latest partner, Carol. Welcome to the YJP family. Carol so graciously agreed to come on to facilitate and chair tonight's panel. And we're really excited to have you part of the family. We've tried to get you before, and finally you're here. So Carol, the good news is once you're part of the family, you can't leave. So, so welcome everyone. Welcome, Carol. I'm going to pass it on to you to take us away for this extraordinary night. So everybody sit back, relax, and we'll have time later on for Q&A. But right now, I'll pass it on to Carol. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Moshe, and Mazel Tov on your wedding anniversary. Mazel Tov to you and Dina, and yes, definitely at least another 100 years. And I want to thank YJP and the organisers for inviting me. It actually sounds like a wonderful organisation and a wonderful family. And Moshe, I think that you so warmly welcomed everyone and acknowledged that, you know, people are having quite an unusual experience in these COVID times, and perhaps at times we aren't all coping as well as we are at other times. So I think that your very warm invitation to reach out will be really very, very appreciated. So thank you very much for that. Now, I know Leah BALTER very well, but I don't know Peter Edwards and I don't know Sam TARASCIO very well. So what we thought we would do in starting this evening is just get each of our panelists to talk a little bit about themselves, talk about their backgrounds and talk about what they're doing and potentially how they're coping through these very strange times. So Peter, I might start with you.
Sure, thank you. And thank you everyone for having me on. I must say, you know, always enjoy YJP and conversations. I've always found good opportunities come from these conversations and, you know, relationships gets formed. So always happy to be here. Peter Edwards, loving father of 3, managing director of the Victor Smorgon Group. I guess back history, was a horrible student, went and did an apprenticeship in a steel mill, learnt welding, fitting and turning and fluid mechanics, and started in factories for the next 15, 20 years. It's fair to say the Victor Smorgon Group today is a family operated business. We operate with a family council, which includes effectively all the descendants of Victor and Lottie Smorgon, and then an investment committee working with interacting both those two groups. Really in a sort of diversified portfolio of investments through different asset classes. Today, I guess someone asked me a little while ago what we do, and I said anything that involves a shovel. Today we are property, recycling, mining, food and retail. Retail probably doesn't involve too much shovels, but that's the outlier. As a group, we employ over 1,500 people directly in Australia and more worldwide. You may know us. I mean, it's not. When you say talk about me is probably the business, because there's not much of me left after the business is finished with me. In terms of operating businesses, Perfection Fresh is one of our businesses. We are the second largest horticultural business in Australia, and you may know some of our brands: broccolini, Calypso mangoes, Kumato tomatoes, a whole range of products. In terms of the other operating business or larger activity at this point in time is in gold mining. We purchased Stawell Gold Mine back in 2017, took it from 12 people in employ to about 220 people now, and back up into full production. And then sort of ancillaries around that. So that's sort of, I guess, around the business world. More personally, as you wouldn't be surprised, given my background, like to repair, restore and race old cars. And that kind of keeps me busy when I'm not at work and not with the kids for that matter.
Yeah, Peter, that's fantastic. Thank you. My goodness, what a diversified business portfolio you have. So we'll get into that a bit later. Leah, hello. Lovely to see you.
Hello,
How
Carol.
are you?
So good to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah.
You know, Peter, I now sell shovels online, so I can
I thought it was a good mix.
get you a shovel, but maybe if I start at the beginning, because I know a lot of people on the call probably don't know me well, and those that do probably don't know much about my background. So my parents gave me a really good grounding in business from a really early age, and I actually started working in my mum's chocolate factory when I was 9 years old, and I learnt to pack back then, orders for customers, make chocolates, and I was working in the retail shop on the school holidays, and I learned a lot from my mum during that time. But my dad also gave me a grounding in finance, and we often laugh about this as a family because he taught me long division when I was 6, and then he moved on to teach me how to invest my bat mitzvah money into shares. So I started trading the share market from when I was 12. And then by the time I was 15, I was actually doing his tax returns and the tax returns for my mum's business. So being interested in maths and in science, I went on to do engineering, and not sure what actually made me do it, but I went on to engineering. I learned to fail really fast because after one day as an engineer, my first day I was actually handed a pair of steel cap boots and a gas mask and told that if the gas mask came off that I could die. So I reevaluated my options on my way home from work and actually enrolled in business school and started a month later, and really learned to fail fast at that point in time. And so when I was 21, I joined McKinsey and traveled the world, and had an incredible time traveling all over the world. 80% of the time I was actually traveling. By the time I was 26, I actually had lifetime status at Qantas, which I didn't really appreciate, but now I do. I've worked for most of my corporate career, since then with ASX listed companies like ANZ, Incitec Pivot, now Wesfarmers, and I've also had the privilege working with Alan and Carol and Trawalla Group and the family business, and some with other family businesses in Melbourne, which has just been great. So for the last 15 years, I've sort of been balancing between the two, the corporate world and my family life. So during the day, I'm in the boardroom, and at night, the dining table, wife to Sully and mother of 4 kids. And now it's quite ironic in terms of, bringing my whole self to work, because I'm literally, living at work and literally working out of my dining room. Here in terms of the challenges, my son, my 7-year-old, will sit up his iPad and speakers and just start school behind me when I'm in the middle of chairing a meeting. Or my son will over there just go on with a piano lesson. And I think we're all facing these challenges right now. So in terms of what I'm doing now, for the last part of my career, I focused on digital disruption, which I've absolutely loved. And for the last 6 months has really been a perfect platform in terms of digital disruption and what's been going on with COVID. I've had the privilege of leading the change across digital and data at Bunnings and taking the business online. And we can talk a bit about that later, but really it's been about safety in stores, and also how to get our customers access to products online, and how do we keep tradies able to buy their shovel in store and continue to be employed with the jobs that they're doing. So I'm looking forward to the discussion today and hearing from, from Carol, Peter and Sam, and thank you, Moish and everyone else, Salman and Yehuda, for inviting me.
Thanks so much, Leah. I must say, apart from being a brilliant businesswoman, Leah is also a huge contributor to community organisations. She does an amazing job in her spare time. So thanks a lot, Leah. Lovely to see you. And Sam, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yep, thank you, Carol, and thank you to YJP. I feel very privileged to be a good friend of YJP. I'm the Managing Director of Salta Properties. As the name would suggest, we are predominantly a property business. This year, we are celebrating the 50th year of being in business, which is a very important milestone for us, and we didn't intend to be celebrating it the way that we are. I have also been with the business for 20 years, and I've been Managing Director of the business for 15 years. I have been with the business for 20 years, but I am 45, and I feel like I've actually worked amongst the business for all that time. Being a family business, obviously you get heavily absorbed in the business from a very young age. A little bit about Salt before I get onto myself. As a property business, we are a multifaceted business. We're across different sectors. We do a lot in residential. In fact, Peter is one of our partners in our residential business, part of our residential business. Do a lot of office. So there's probably a lot to talk about in those two categories in terms of what's going on at the moment. We're also very fortunate at the moment to do a lot of industrial, logistics assets, and we've had a very important milestone announced earlier this week with something that my father's been passionate about for 15 years, which is establishment of an inland intermodal port in Dandenong South. And we also do a little bit of retail, and we also do some hotel developments as well. We're developer and investor, so most of what we develop, we hold, put it into our portfolio. Our business model is predominantly to identify large land banks that we buy because they're the best in breed for the particular type of property that we're looking at. We're not a developer that reacts and sort of runs out of stock and has to go out and buy the next thing. We've always got pipeline. To that end, our development pipeline is about a $5 billion pipeline of projects that we'll be carrying out between now and next five years or so. So it's a very significant pipeline. The other part of our business, so property development, property investment, you know, being now sort of a second generation business, my father's still heavily involved, but we've been very careful about just how we, I guess, succession plan the family business. I think it's something that a lot of businesses don't do very well. And we've tried very hard to make sure that we're establishing our business for the long term, not just for my generation, but for future generations as well. It's important for us that the business remains successful through multiple generations. We're moving into technology. So we have what we call our Salta capital arm, which is I guess, a way of diversifying, but diversifying into things that are related to our core business. So a lot of property technology, finance technology, and logistics technology. Logistics technology, because in the early days, our business was both a property business and a logistics business. We had a company called Westgate Logistics, which was obviously founded by my father. We sold out of that business about 13 years ago, but we've still maintained a very keen interest in logistics, and our movement into modal terminals is something obviously in the logistics field that we're very passionate about. Myself, I'm married to my beautiful wife, Carmen, and I have 3 amazing children. I studied at Melbourne University, commerce, and I went into a very quick 12-month stint at PricewaterhouseCoopers in their audit division. If I had my time again, I would definitely do it again. I think it was a fantastic grounding for what I've been doing, but a year was well and truly enough. And then I went into at Jones Lang LaSalle as basically a cadet there, and moved around in their various different divisions and effectively worked through their graduate program. And then my next role, I moved into Salta Properties when one of our property managers, at the time we had a much smaller business, and our property manager left to go on maternity leave. And to my surprise, my father said, right, time to come across. It's a bit earlier than I thought it would be, but that's what started my time at Salta in late 1999, early 2000. And since that time, the business has grown significantly. We've gone through some pretty tough times through the GFC. So, you know, the times that we're going through at the moment are another significant challenge, but we feel like we've been through similar sort of tough times before, and we feel like we're well positioned to battle it through. I think that's probably enough from me.
Did you always think you were going to go into your family business, Sam?
Yeah, I did, Carol. I was lucky. I think I was always interested in it. And one of the things I probably should have mentioned in that spiel is, you know, I spent my early jobs were spent working in the warehouses that we had. We had the Coles contract, the FMCG contract, and I used to spend my holidays working in there as a picker, stacking pallets, and that was a fantastic, I guess, a fantastic educational opportunity for me in the business. And I spent a lot of time on site with my father as well. He used to love to get down on site and bunk in with the guys and work on the weekends. And I used to accompany him, probably a bit of a pest at the time. I'd run around collecting old bits of wood and making bonfires and doing the sorts of things you probably can't do on sites now. But I was always very interested in the business. And I think for me, you know, I think I always thought I would end up there. But, you know, as I said earlier, it probably happened a bit earlier than I thought.
Yeah. And do you have siblings who work with you in that business?
Yeah, I do. I've got a sister and a brother. My sister doesn't work in the business any longer. She used to. She's actually a property lawyer, so she has her own business with her husband, and quite a successful business. It's a conveyancing business. My brother works in the business. He's the CEO of Salta Capital. So it's sort of our family office. It's a sort of a very early stage family office. And he's the one looking at all of these alternative but related investments. And we're very lucky. We work very closely together. I think one of the challenges in a family business is making sure that, you know, the roles are fairly clearly defined and there's not too much crossover, and where there's crossover, it's a complementary crossover. It's a fine balance to get right. We're very lucky though, we get on extremely well. We probably have different skills. We're complementary in that way, and that my brother is a very entrepreneurial personality, loves to bring things together, and I think that suits him really well. I'm a lot more of a stable hand, I think, and you know, we have a big core business, and it needs to be kept, you know, running smoothly, and you know, that's where I think I add the greatest value.
Sounds good. And of course, your father's still around to sort of guide the succession planning, so that's always very helpful, having been in that situation myself.
Yeah, look, we're very lucky, and we work well together as well. My father is so extremely passionate about the business. He's 75, but still loves it. And I think, you know, we have our differences. I think all families have their differences, but we resolve those differences, I think, in a really respectful way. And I think he understands that the business, you know, needs to go, you know, needs to be established for the second generation and future generations. And he's had to accept some changes that he might have found difficult. But I think also, I think his experience and you know, the value that he adds has been invaluable for me as I've sort of taken on the role.
Fantastic, thank you. And I guess all of you have had different types of experiences because you come from quite different businesses during these challenging times. So Leah, I might start with you, working for you know, in a big sort of listed corporate. What have you found to be the biggest challenges around COVID, and how have you found your organisation has adapted?
So I think, I mean, the biggest challenge, if we start back to, I guess, you know, end of February when we started worrying about COVID, was how to keep our team safe and employed in store and busy, and how to give our customers access safely to what they needed for essentials, but also products to, you know, for mental health and well-being, or just for renovations. So, you know, I think we can come to this later, but we've had to pivot really fast. We were in the middle of a digital transformation. We weren't fully online. We had 48 hours notice in New Zealand to shut all of our stores, and we didn't have an online shop. So we had to work really, really hard to, you know, get our team, you know, to be able to actually serve our customers in that way. And in Tasmania, similarly, with the sort of lockdowns there, we couldn't do drive and collect or anything that, you know, we managed to do later. And so again, we had to pivot really fast. And now in Victoria, you know, it's just, again, around pivoting fast and making sure that, you know, you probably have all seen, you know, the Bunnings Karen in terms of, you know, what our team have to deal with sort of, you know, every day in terms of, you know, across Australia, but just making sure our team's safe and keeping our customers, giving them access to our products.
Yeah. What happened to your share price in March? Yeah. What happened to your share price in March?
It went to $32, and I think around $32. And, you know, now, I mean, I think it was back up at 49 something a couple of days ago, which is amazing. But I think back then, with the stores closing, it was, you know, literally an unknown as to whether we were going to be able to operate. And as we weren't in New Zealand, we could sell 80 products, 80 out of, you know, almost 100,000 products. We were allowed to sell 80 products to customers, and only to tradies that were registered tradies. So I think if you sort of look back and forecast that across Australia as to what could have happened, you know, it could have been sort of a really dire situation.
Yeah. And was it difficult for Bunnings to lobby or negotiate that they were actually an essential service and needed to stay open? Because that was quite contentious, wasn't it?
No, it was actually. Actually, going back early in March, I don't know if you recall the first Shabbos where that we couldn't go to shul as such. And I remember back then thinking, oh my gosh, what is this going to be like? And I actually wrote an email outlining sort of what the experience would be, that this was the first Shabbos since World War II that, you know, as Jews, we weren't able to go to shul. And, you know, as my way of sort of trying to lobby that this is what, you know, could potentially happen across Australia. And so out of that, we quickly designed the drive and collect model. So within 4 days, designed drive and collect, presented a video of it to government in terms of lobbying of this was the way we saw we needed to shop in the future. And we targeted everyone we knew in terms of the, you know, federal government, state government, you know, everyone that we could to say, look, we think this is the model that in order to keep people sort of employed and to get customers what they want, sort of a model of the future. And then within 3 weeks, we rolled it out across the network as a way to try and show the government that here was a safe way to shop. And, you know, thank God we sort of got that in Victoria, and we've got team fully employed across Victoria and New Zealand now with the next wave of lockdown, you know, serving customers through drive and collect. So it's about pivoting fast and trying to, you know, I guess get people to see the vision around, you know, what could happen.
Fascinating. And Peter, your portfolio is so diversified. So where have you been hit hardest with COVID? What's working for you and what's not working for you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we've got multiple challenges across a lot of different things. I guess the easiest place to start is fashion retail. Within our business is General Pants Group. We've been operating as a General Pants since 1995 in partnership with some of the family members, Jackie Viter and Phil Stow. So, you know, I guess General Pants was, well, sorry, I'll go back a step. We had a very good run up to disaster because our head office burnt down in early February. So as a precursor for disaster relief plans, you know, a whole lot of other issues, we kind of got through that. And then as soon as we, in essence, came out the other side, we were closing for, I guess, for periods of time. It was very challenging for us. That was effectively 700 people that we had to well, I've forgotten the right terminology now, but effectively stand down for periods of time. And then relook at head office, all of our expense profiles, designs for that matter, supply chains, you know, product through where was product. Really to the flip side, I mean, it was a really interesting one. The mine got defined as essential service, but we couldn't find methylated spirits. So you have 200 people, 220 people sitting there. The lab process requires a certain chemical that just wasn't available. And in fact, Leah, it was thanks to you guys, we sent everyone to go and raid Bunnings shops and buy bottles of this stuff to get to 2,000 litres. The other areas, fruit and vegetables been really an interesting area in terms of disparate picking labour. We have operations in every state, rely very much on the Pacific Islander worker work visa programs, rely on backpackers, pickers, those types of people. So that's been a really interesting discussion to a certain degree, because a number of our people are on the industry associations. You know, we've been able to support those industry associations to try and get the outcomes that we're looking for, which is really just the ability to pick fruit and deliver it to store. Certain, you know, weird things, some shortages in some areas and too much product in other areas. So I don't know. You know, it depends on the first email when I wake up in the morning, whether it's, you know, whether there's good issues or bad issues.
Yeah, but it's sort of interesting because I guess Leah described having to pivot, you know, the Bunnings business and do things very differently. So what with General Pants, for example, have you always had a strong online presence and strong selling through the online channels?
I guess relative terms, yes, to Australian retail as you know, on an average basis. We were, and I was just trying, we've gone from, I think, about 16% online pre-COVID to about 26% now, post. But it hasn't really been an extension of our current program. It's just been really more about, you know, making it more available, doing appropriate marketing around it, and then making sure that we have enough stock within our online warehouse to be able to deliver product. And a lot of that really came down to keeping people employed in stores and treating them as effectively warehouse workers rather than sales assistants, and doing deliveries for the online store from the stores that were, well, even today, I mean, stocks going from Victoria into New South Wales, Queensland.
And has it made you think differently about the opportunity for retail, clothing retail?
Look, kind of the weird thing is, I guess we've been developing another brand called Subi at the same time, which is a sort of a high-priced fashion jean. It's, you know, Subi's been going crazy. We're up maybe 300%. And so what's really, what I think I've seen, or what I'm starting to pull together is those things that have a defined community seem to be progressing. And you know, General Pants, you could probably argue, has a very transient community, you know, of a particular age demographic that kind of rolls through. When I look at a business like Subi, there is a very defined demographic as opposed to age range, and that's been going from strength to strength. So I think it's very much horses for courses, and different ideas and different managers as to where you end up sitting.
Yeah, and it's so interesting, isn't it? I've been reading about these brands that are selling directly now on Instagram, for example, and how well they're doing. And you know, they call them, what do they call them? DTC, direct to consumer.
Yeah.
And it's like a whole new channel. And of course, now through COVID, it seems to be really, you know, forging ahead in leaps and bounds.
Yeah. And I think what I'm kind of really concerned about now is, I mean, effectively the government's paying us to stay open.
Yeah.
You know, we're trying to analyse what happens when that stops. You know,
I think everybody's trying to work that out.
Yeah. So right now, I mean, I talked to my son who works in store. He's training at the moment to be an assistant or a 2IC. And when I talk to him about, you know, the discussions he's having with customers, basically we see the waves of when the payments are getting paid, and the people are talking about, oh, I got all this free money. You know, I thought I'd buy a pair of jeans. so you know, it's very much a wait and see in that respect, and particularly for Victoria.
Yeah, yeah. And Sam, where are the biggest challenges in your business under COVID?
Yeah, well, obviously in a property business, we're facing multiple different challenges, I suppose. We starting with, I think, obviously there is a tension brewing between landlords and tenants, and obviously we're a landlord. We're extremely mindful of the challenges that many of our tenants are going through. And
sorry, Sam, do you own retail property, shopping centres?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we don't have a huge exposure to retail. We have probably 4 retail assets. Probably the most obvious, the most well-known one would be Victoria Gardens in Richmond, which we co-own with Vicinity Centres, and we developed that asset 20 years ago and have remained as the owner ever since. So you know, and that issue, that landlord-tenant issue, is obviously most challenging in the retail environment, where you know you've got retailers who have been forced by to effectively close their doors. And so, you know, we're very mindful that there are many who really need the support of JobKeeper, and they need landlord support to get through. The challenge for us has been because at the end of the day, we only have a finite amount of ability to assist as well. And coming into this crisis, we sort of made a call internally that, we wanted to make sure that we stuck by all of our commercial arrangements to the best of our ability. That meant, making the decision to continue with projects that we'd commenced, because we were very mindful about wanting to keep the momentum in our business and our people employed, and obviously the flow-on effect of stopping a major project, that has on our suppliers. So we're trying very hard to stick to our commercial arrangements, and I suppose the attitude we're taking with our clients, our tenants, is that where they can, they should stick with their commercial obligations. Where they can't, we should help them, and that's the attitude we've been sort of rolling out.
Can I just ask a question there, because it's sort of interesting, because you are a family business, right? You're not listed.
No.
And your partner, Vicinity, is listed.
Yes.
Yes. So do you find that there's alignment in the way you approach these sorts of problems?
Look, we are reasonably well aligned with Vicinity in the way we're tackling our Victoria Gardens asset, which is the asset we do hold in joint venture. And I think all listed property owners are having the same problem that we're having as a private company, which is sifting through, those clients of theirs that really need the assistance to get through, and those who are, probably taking advantage in some cases, unfortunately, of the situation. And the issue with that is that, all businesses have limits to the ability to which they can assist. And so what you want to make sure you do is you direct that assistance to where it's needed most, and make sure it doesn't go to where it's not needed, because where it goes to where it's not needed, that limits your ability to help those who need it most. And I think what we're seeing at the moment is there is some tweaking needed of the various different rules around landlord-tenant dealings that should help better target where the assistance goes. So we're sort of very heavily involved in trying to get that right. Then more broadly, from our business point of view, we have a couple of hotels, but we've had to close those. Essentially with occupancy of less than 10% in a hotel, you just can't run it. So that's obviously been a real challenge for us. And then you look at the office market, and there is 1,001 different opinions about what's going to happen to offices as we move forward. My point of view sort of is reasonably consistent. I still hold the view that office will be an essential part of an organisation. I think it's where you build culture. It's where you build that accidental learning that happens, teamwork, creativity, all of that sort of thing. I do think it'll be more flexible. I think people will be coming and going to and from the office more readily. Work from home will become more prevalent, but I still don't hold the view, certainly for our business anyway. I think collaboration, being in the office, is really important. And I keep saying, if you go back 5 years, and I've said this a few times, or 10 years, and look at what office looked like 5 years and 10 years ago, it was very different to the way it looked pre-COVID, 6 months ago. So, and what I can guarantee you is that office will look very different 5 years from now, and COVID will have a big impact in the way we view office design and how we use offices. But I do feel though that the office sector will recover. But it is definitely one of the sectors that is most challenged. Residential is another area that's obviously been quite significantly challenged. With people mindful of losing their jobs or having lost their jobs, and just being cautious about making big commitments. Our business is predominantly in apartments, and we've just seen a complete collapse in inquiry. I think that has the potential to cause us some problems, you know, in a few years from now, because we're already heading into a situation of undersupply. We've temporarily found ourselves in a position where some argue that we might be slightly oversupplied because of the shutting of our borders. But once things normalise in a few years' time, I think, unfortunately, we're going to have a bigger undersupply problem than we were heading for initially. So I think, you know, property market dislocation for us is really the biggest concern. Uncertainty, you know, for us next year, valuations are a big question. You know, how is the market going to view the different asset classes? And they're all very different. I mean, as I said earlier, we're also in the industrial sector, and you know, that's the opposite end of the scale. You know, that's sort of transport logistics. Property is highly sought after because of the shift that's occurred, you know, to online and other forms of retail that are relying on the transport and logistics sector. So it's been very challenging for us. I think it'll be a challenging 18 months in property. But like it always does, I think we'll pivot, and we'll find new ways of using properties. That's what always happens.
Yeah, it does. And but is your brother, who's running the family office side of the business, which is obviously investing in things other than property, is he seeing good opportunities or exciting opportunities as a result of what's happening now?
Yes, yeah, he is. I mean, there is a lot of technology businesses in particular, and I think technology is one of the sectors that clearly has benefited out of the situation that we're in. In fact, we've just established a fund called Second Quarter Ventures, and we've raised it's about $40 million, and we call it a secondary fund, and it's sort of what it does is it's a lot of businesses where founders or executives have interests in businesses, and they might have moved on, or they need to, I guess, cash out to a certain extent. There's a lot of people who founded these businesses who are, I say, wealthy on paper, but actually are sort of locked into the business. So Second Quarter Ventures provides, in a sense, a bit of a liquidity facility for them. But what we found was this was the first fund that we'd raised in that sector. So previously, all of our investment in technology has been mostly direct investment. We've had some venture fund investment, but mostly it's been direct. And so it was quite surprising just how quickly we were able to raise money for that fund. And I think it's a reflection of just how investors, sort of the smart money out there, is viewing the opportunities in technology.
Yeah, fascinating. And Leah, just one quick question before we have to hand over to Yehuda and Zelman. How nimble are you finding, you know, a big, you know, publicly listed behemoth like Bunnings, which is part, of course, of the Wesfarmers conglomerate? How are you finding the agility in that organisation, and I guess more than that, the culture of the people to be able to change and pivot so quickly?
So I think we were really lucky that we actually within digital had set up Agile practices last year. And we'd taken a whole bunch of people out of the business and trained them in Agile. And I think that really helped during this time. So, you know, we had, you know, sort of critical mass to lead the digital and analytics work that could effectively work. We were on 2-week sprints. You know, at the beginning of COVID, we were on to daily sprints. And you know,
sorry, can I just ask, what does training in Agile look like?
So there's actually an Agile methodology that sort of has, I guess, come from sort of technology companies. And I guess what we've sort of done is take those Agile practices and taken them into sort of a corporate. And so instead of, you know, a waterfall approach that you'd be used to, Carol, where you build a building and you know exactly what the requirements are, and typically the projects, you know, go over time, over money. Agile methodology says, well, if you fix the time, if you fix the budget, what can you build within that time and budget? And what you constantly do within Agile is reprioritize what's important. And for us, it's around what's important to customers. So you go get feedback from customers, what's important, you prioritize that. Everything else sort of goes in what's a backlog in Agile terminology. And so that's effectively, you know, what I guess we were lucky that we had been trained up in that. And an MVP in technology terminology, minimum viable product, which is technology speak for something that you can, like a basic app that you can get customers to test. And for us, we took that not just to digital, but also to a business process. So for us, an MVP of contactless shopping was how can we get drive and collect up in 4 days? And it was some dodgy signs on a wall and, you know, a really basic sort of manual process where it looks like you're purchasing it online, but we had a call center behind the scenes until we could actually build it out. And so Agile, you know, is sort of being applied in, you know, a lot of corporates around the world. And it's something where you've got single-minded purpose. For us around keeping team, you know, employed, you know, really helped us sort of, I guess, pivot and throw in the backlog anything that wasn't important and just focus on what we needed to do.
Fantastic. That's so interesting. Agile methodology. I've never heard of that. Okay, well, I'm going to hand over now to Yehuda and Zalman. And before I do that, I want to say thank you so much to the three of you. This has been such a fascinating conversation. I've really, really enjoyed it. So over to you, Yehuda and Zalman.
Thank you, Carol.
Thanks so much, Carol. And we're going to now invite you to become part of the panel. We're going to wrap this up with a fun activity called Rapid Fire, where myself and Zalman Ainsworth, we're going to ask you some questions. Some are serious, some are a bit more fun, but we want sort of one word or one sentence answers. Don't think too much. Just give us the first thing on your mind. And I don't think there's any reporters here or anything like that. So nothing's going to be leaked. Although I think it is being recorded. So we'll start with you, Carol. If we were going for coffee, what would be your coffee order?
I don't drink coffee.
Tea.
Is that okay?
That's fine. Tea?
Tea, English breakfast.
Peter, where will the stock market be 12 months from today?
Less than where it is today.
Sam, what's been your favorite food during lockdown?
Well, I used to have soup every day when I was in the office because that's my standing order. So the best thing about being in lockdown is the variety that my wife delivers me every day for lunch.
Leah, have you developed a vice during lockdown that you're looking forward to kicking, and what is it?
Chocolate in the fridge.
Peter, when was the last time you wore dress shoes?
Los Angeles in January.
This question is for all four of you. How many hoodies do each of you own?
How many
hoodies?
We've got about 4 on order, Zalman. 1's arrived, 3 more to come.
Hoodies are those blanket hoodies that people are wearing throughout 2020.
I don't have to hide that badly yet.
I think General Pants specializes in those online.
This question should be for Carol, but she's got a bit of insider information. So due to conflict, I'm going to then ask Sam instead. Where will interest rates be in 12 months' time?
I think they'll be about the same.
Peter, have you changed your exercise routines in 2020?
No, I haven't.
Leah, you spoke about innovation. What's the most impressive startup you've seen coming out of COVID?
That's a really good question.
You have 1 minute to answer.
I don't know if I can. I think that there's been a lot that I've seen. Yeah, no, I can't answer that. I think
I'm going to help Leah. I'm going to help Leah with that because there's actually been a lot of really interesting telehealth developed by young women entrepreneurs, which have emerged through COVID, which have become very, very successful.
And have people been pitching you those ideas, Carol?
Absolutely. I'm involved with a really interesting organisation called Scale, Angel Network, which is predominantly women investing in women entrepreneurs. And we've seen a lot of really interesting telehealth businesses that have really taken off.
Peter, are you getting more business ideas pitched to you in 2020 than you have in 2019?
No. Look, I think the good thing about the good thing about not being in the office is people aren't wandering into the office.
Is that including Yehuda and I?
You got my number. I can't run away from you.
Carol, well, this is not a political question, but just your thoughts. Do you think Biden or Trump will win the election in November?
Oh, God, if Trump wins, I think the American people should all commit suicide.
Now, who do you think will win?
I'm telling you who I'm hoping will win. I'm hoping that Biden will win, but I have a son who lives in the States at the moment who's very fearful that Trump could win. Which would be horrible.
Sorry.
Sorry, Stelman, I just said it would be absolutely horrible.
So you're not voting for Trump?
I don't have to vote, thank goodness.
Sam, how you manage your construction sites during stage 4 lockdown?
That is a challenge, Zalman. We're down to 25% of our workforce on our large sites. So, reality is we've lost 6 weeks of productivity because you can't run a big site with 25% of people on site. So it's been a challenging time, unfortunately.
Yes, this one.
This is one we're going to ask everyone. I'll call you out in turn.
Yes.
When do you predict we will be allowed to travel overseas? And where's the first place on your itinerary? Peter?
Do you prefer Zoom?
When do you think we'll be allowed overseas? And where's the first place on your itinerary?
Me, I reckon March.
And where are you going?
Nowhere in a hurry.
Sam?
I think Peter's optimistic. I reckon it'll be a good 12 to 18 months before we'll feel safe to travel. I was booked to go with my family and my parents-in-law to Israel in June and Greece in July, same trip. So I'm hoping to be able to do that planned trip at some point next year or the year after.
Leah?
I think at least 12 months, probably by the end of next year. If you look at any indication of what Qantas are saying, and I'm also not in a hurry at all. I can't, imagine wanting to go anywhere right now.
Got you, Carol?
Well, I am actually booked to go to London next June, but I think I'm being very optimistic. And to be absolutely honest, I probably won't get on an aeroplane and go through international airports until there's a vaccine.
Next question, Mati is going to ask.
Carol, what do you prefer, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, or Google Teams?
Oh, definitely Zoom. Absolutely Zoom.
Leah, will kids be home in term 4 or back in school?
Oh my gosh. You're killing me. I unfortunately think they will be home until February. But I don't know if you've heard my kids screaming in the background tonight, but it happens most schools.
Peter, if you had $1 million to invest, would it be in property, shares, or bonds right now?
Are they my only 3 choices?
Those are your 3 choices, and it's only $1 million.
No gold,
Property.
No gold.
Property.
Property? Retail property?
Well, I guess we just did.
You hit our last question?
Carol, can you mention an example of a young professional? We've got many professionals that are online tonight that have impressed you during, and it's been tough, but in the last sort of period, what has a young professional done that's really stood out?
Look, I guess the thing that has impressed me most in the last 6 months are the way people have adapted to work from home generally, and the productivity levels that have been maintained. So I have to say that the adaptation, the productivity has been absolutely phenomenal, and that's been in young professionals, in the people that I work with. It's just been fantastic, and I think that we've all been surprised by that.
Okay. If anyone has any questions, please put it into the chat, and Yehuda or I will read it out. Please don't ask about Trump or Biden.
I want to know who says Sleepy Joe has dementia and he hasn't got a chance.
Slow Joe.
Show yourself.
We've got a question here from Karen, who asks, and this can be for anyone to answer, any of the panel, what coping mechanisms or procedures do you personally use to deal with the stress and the pressure of the continually changing rules? Are there any coping mechanisms?
Meditation.
Sam?
Yeah, look, I have to say my mood goes up and down, daily and weekly. And as Peter mentioned earlier, it sort of almost depends on what email you open in the morning as to, how your day pans out. And, I think I've just learned to try to take a breath. We sort of understand that we're in an unprecedented time. You've got to, I think, come to grips with the fact that there are certain things that are out of your control. And what will be in some cases. We've got to do our best where we can, and we've got to try not to let the things that we can't control get us down. We've got to keep pushing on.
Leah?
So talking, whether it's to Sully, to my friends, to my team, or to, mentors for advice, just trying to talk it out before I go to sleep and having it on my head. And then if I'm really stressed, run around the block or do some exercise.
Peter?
I don't know. Is coffee and cigarettes an appropriate answer?
In 2020, it is.
Whiskey.
All right. That's all for the rapid
one more
question.
for you, Peter. Particularly Ryan McCall has asked you what your view is on Bitcoin.
Actually, we've got quite a positive view on Bitcoin. Look, it's an interesting area. We certainly started to look at it from a sort of more institutional basis, and I think that you're starting to get insurance products and other things around it as an asset class. I guess it's quite limited. It's certainly seen as a positive to the younger generation and a negative to the older generation. I'm not sure that happens often, but from a transaction standpoint, I think it works.
Thanks so much, guys, for your time and being open. We might throw back to Moishi.
Thank you. Carol, Sam, Peter, Leah, that was so inspiring, entertaining, fun, and really, really incredible to have you guys part of YJP. I think for Peter and Sam, I know what I've got to do from now on. Every morning when I wake up at 5:30, you're going to be my first email I'm going to send. And I hope that makes your day rather than dampens your day.
Moishi, I hope it's the first email.
Okay. Well, Well, I hope you're not getting emails before 5:30. To all of those that are feeling down, the most simplistic mechanism is connect to one another, as we said at the beginning, or text Dina. Dina makes the most wonderful, warm, fresh covers every Friday, and we'll be honored. I'm allowed to deliver as a rabbi. I'm allowed to do pastoral care and deliver to your door a freshly baked challah. So we would love to drop you one off. Really, thank you all so much for joining us. We have events nearly every night. Tomorrow night, please join us again. We're interviewing Dennis Prager. If you don't know who he is, Google him. He's an extraordinary, one of the largest radio hosts. He's an entertainer and a author, extraordinary communicator in America. Dennis Prager tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. So please join us again. I'll be interviewing him. Very excited for that. But this program's nonstop. Please reach out, connect. That is why JP is here to bring you guys together. So thank you all for joining us once again. Thank you all for being part of YJP. Carol, Leah, Peter, Sam, really thank you. He wasn't there at the beginning, but I do want to say to Daniel Parasol and Farah Meltzer, who connected Sam to us. Thank you so much. It's good that I see your face. So it's good to have you guys. And thank you to all of you. Really, thank you to Yehuda, to Zalman, to Brian, who didn't get to speak tonight, but Brian does so much work for YJP. Brian, you could give a shout out if but really, Brian is really everyone. It takes a whole village, if you like, to raise a child. It takes a village to get YJP going. So thank you to all, and God bless you. Be safe, stay healthy, stay connected, and we love you all. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks very
Bye.
much.
For having us.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.